next guest is sick and tired of it, though, and he has a solution.
All right, Rory Vaden is the author of this book, Take the Stairs, a New York Times bestseller.
Rory Vaden is co-founder of Brand Builders Group and the author of the New York Times bestseller Take the Stairs, a book that has been translated into 11 languages. Rory is the world's leading expert on the psychology of overcoming procrastination, increasing productivity, and teaching people how to create a results-driven reputation and influential personal brand. Rory is a frequent guest on national television, and his insights are featured regularly in media outlets such as The Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Fortune, Forbes, CNN, Inc., and the New York Times. Entrepreneur and Inc. magazines both recently named Rory as one of the world's top leadership thinkers. Rory's second book, Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time, is also a national bestseller. And his TED Talk, now with millions of views, has quickly spread around the world.
Please help me welcome Rory Vaden.
Hey, Sunriders. It's Rory Vaden. It's so good to be here with you. And I know you're just meeting me for the first time, but I have actually spent the last couple months learning about you and working with your leadership team as a part of getting ready for this event. And I want you to know, first of all, that they care so much about you and developing the field and supporting you with the tools that you need to grow in a changing economy and in a changing world, and in some ways in a tough world and in a tough situation. But we've been learning about you, we've been studying about you, and we're so excited to be here. In fact, one of the things that I noticed really early on is that you all have a number of specific kind of acronyms and terms and language that you use on your internal team. And so I actually wrote a song for you. and I'm not a singer, I'm not a songwriter at all, but I wrote a song for you and for me, just to help me remember and learn some of the things about you and your team and your culture. And I hope that you like it. You probably will recognize the tune. And it goes something like this. ABOs do retailing, IBOs do direct selling. Let's all rise up to Icon Elite, because everyone loves Fortune and Cali. That's the Sunrider ABCs, art of verbal science for you and me. Oh gosh, I hope that you like it, and I hope that all made sense for you, because I love so much of what you do. I love your commitment to helping people, clean their homes with confidence and live a healthier life, and this whole idea of the joy of life in balance, and what you do and what you bring to people is just so important. And I love your business model, by the way. Your infinity compensation plan that you all have is incredible and very, very unique and rare. Plus, you have your amazing fast start bonus, and I love it. And I love direct sales. And you see, I actually have been around. I've been studying success my entire life, and I grew up around direct sales because I was actually raised by a single mother who sold Mary Kay cosmetics. And I've been studying leadership and success and sales and business my entire life because I was raised by women who were constantly teaching me all of the principles of success. It also means that I know more about makeup than I do about cars. It's a true story. I mean, guys, you won't appreciate this, but those of you ladies, women, right, every single morning when you wake up and you stand in front of that mirror, it goes something like this, right? It goes wash, moisturizer, toner, foundation, wrinkle-free eye cream, base eyeshadow, dark eyeshadow, blush, eyeliner, mascara, lip liner, and lipstick. I know, this is how it goes. This is it. Single mom right here, boy raised by a single mom. I know all of you ladies out there, you're probably laughing and clapping. Meanwhile, some of you guys are probably looking at me like, this dude was a high school cheerleader. But I love success. I love studying this. I love studying direct sales, and I've been around it my entire life. And my mom used to have this phrase that she would tell me when I was young and my entire life. And she would say, Rory, success in life comes down to the choices that you make. And here's a choice that I just want you to think about to yourself for a second. The last time that you were walking along, and let's say that you were in a mall or an airport or something, and you came up to a set of escalators and some stairs, did you take the stairs? Or think about it this way. Which one do you think most people choose? Do you think most people choose the escalator or most people choose the stairs? Most of us choose the escalator. As a matter of fact, this picture sums up very well what I'm talking about right here. And I love this picture, right? Like, this is real life. This is a real picture that we are naturally programmed to take the shortcut, to search for the easy way, that we kind of gravitate towards the path of least resistance. But if there's one thing that I know to be true about success in all areas of life, whether personally or professionally, and that doesn't matter if you are an ABO or you're an IBO, if you're new in the business, right? If you're just kind of starting out, or if you are an icon royal and you've been in this for a long time, and that is this, that success is not about taking the escalator. Success is about taking the stairs. It's about becoming a person who's willing to do the things you know you should be doing, even when you don't feel like doing them. That's it. Success comes down to doing the things that we know we should be doing, even when we don't feel like doing them. And Sunriders, that's what it is all about, right? Isn't that always what it has been about? And that is what it is about now more than ever. But one of the problems is that we don't live in a take the stairs world. We live in much more of an escalator mentality world. I mean, you don't have to go any further than the nearest magazine stand at the checkout counter to see this kind of stuff, right? There's always somebody out there showing us how to lose your gut the easy way. And we want to believe that there's some magic pill or some secret potion or some hidden formula. And it's not just in our physical lives, it's in our financial lives too, right? I mean, we've had entire industries that have collapsed in our lifetime because every single time we turn around, we had somebody new showing us, how can I buy it now? How can I have it now? How can I enjoy it now? And yet I don't want to pay for it until later. And this buying on credit mentality maybe works in some places, but it's not the story. It's not the true story of success. It's not what makes people successful in this business, right? You don't sponsor people and build a large organization or downline by taking the escalator. We don't grow our business by just talking to the people that we've always known. We grow our business through new meetups and throwing more parties or meetups and reaching out and talking to new people. That is what this business is all about. And that is a take the stairs mindset. And one of my favorite pictures of all time is this one right here. This one is an exercise device that shows you how to exercise in exactly 4 minutes per day. Such a steal of a deal too, at $14,615. I mean, this thing looks like a medieval torture device to me. And this is the world that we live in. It is a world of escalators. But you and I both know that we cannot be escalator people if we're going to grow our business, if we're going to keep up with the changing times of the gig economy. We have to be willing to take the stairs, willing to do the thing that most of us don't, that most of us don't want to do. And so what we have noticed, and our team has begun to realize, not just in direct sales or in franchising or in retailing or but with success in general, is that all of us know what we should do. And yet we become masters at putting off doing the things that we know we should be doing. Right. And I just want you to say the word out loud, right? There is an actual word for this in the English language for putting off things we know we should be doing. So I just want you to say out loud right now, sitting by yourself, tell yourself, what is the word for putting off things we know we should be doing? Yes, procrastination. That is it. Procrastination. And we started to notice this trend in our company, Brain Builders Group, and our team of coaches and strategists. We've worked with hundreds and over the course of our collective career, thousands of people one-on-one, small business owners and direct sales people and people who are entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. And we have found that people procrastinate. We know what to do, but we put off doing the thing. And so we got curious and we started studying this concept of procrastination. And I became, just kind of curious about how much does procrastination actually cost us in our daily lives. And so we went to the U.S. Department of Labor, the National Bureau of Statistics, and we found that nationwide, the average salaried employee self-admits to wasting 2.09 hours every single day. Okay. And they admit to wasting 2.09 hours every single day. Well, here's what the National, the Department of Labor says in terms of how much people get paid, right? So the average salaried employee in the United States, this is from a couple of years ago, makes about $40,000 a year or $19.13 an hour, which means that if we're procrastinating an average of 2 hours out of every single day, that our procrastination costs employers $10,396 per year. Per employee. Per employee. That is a massive number. Now, look, for you, if you run your own business and you're in business for yourself, you're both the employee and the employer. So who's losing that money? You are. You're losing that money. And there's a good chance that you got into this business not to make $40,000 a year, but because of the potential to make many times more than that, maybe 10 times more than that, or even 100 times more than that, right? Like there's no limit. You have an infinity compensation plan. And so every single second that you're procrastinating, you are taking money out of your own pocket and you're throwing it into the toilet. But nobody is there sitting there reminding you that that's what happened, that is what is happening. You, Sunwriter, you have to be the person to remind yourself to go, I am stealing from my future self. That is what's happening. And in the United States, we're not just a nation of procrastinators. We've all heard about, procrastination, but we are a procrastination. We become masters at procrastination. And this is what is stealing money from our pockets. This is what is costing us. This is why our business isn't growing. It's because we're not doing the things we know we should be doing. We're not hosting enough meetups. We're not sponsoring enough people. We're not even talking to people. We're only talking to the people that we already know and that we have as clients and whatever feels safe. And we're not extending out and beyond our comfort zone. And I want to introduce to you 3 types of procrastination that you may not be aware of. Okay, now the first one is classic procrastination. And this is the one that we all think of when we hear the word, right? So classic procrastination is consciously delaying what you know you should be doing. Okay, so that's classic procrastination. It's like I come home from work at night and I have this stack of bills on the kitchen counter. Nobody has to tell me to pay the bills. I kind of know as an adult, I'm supposed to pay the bills, but I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And so rather than paying the bills, I'm just going to sit on the couch, right? And I'm going to zone out and I'm going to watch, Sports Center or something. Now, I don't actually watch Sports Center. For me, I watch Modern Family reruns. Again, Pretty Boy, Mama's Boy right here, right? So I don't watch a ton of sports. I'm watching rom-coms and things like that. But whatever it is for you, you know you should be doing that, and yet you don't do it. Well, and here's what I want you to do. Just raise your hand right now if you know, and you would say, yeah, Rory, I struggle with procrastination in at least some area of my life, right? Just raise your hand right now, wherever you're sitting, raise your hand and go, yep, that's me. I know I struggle with procrastination. Now, my guess is that historically, about 75% of those of you that are watching just raised your hand, and you are admitting to struggling with procrastination. My guess is that the other 25% of you will raise your hand later. Some of you will get that joke later. But all of us struggle with procrastination in some area of our life. But that is not the most dangerous type of procrastination because we know when we're doing it, right? We're consciously aware of it. There's a much more dangerous type of procrastination that you need to be mindful of. And this is something that we call not procrastination, but creative avoidance. And this is a term that I coined in my first book, Take the Stairs, which was, our big blockbuster, New York Times bestseller. And it's creative avoidance. And I had to come up with this term because I identified it first in my own life. And here's what creative avoidance is. Creative avoidance is different because it's unconscious. It's unconsciously filling the day with menial work or trivial work. And what's wild about creative avoidance is that we can be working long hours, right? Like we can get into the office early in the morning. We can be like working. We can be on a lot of meetings, on a lot of conference calls, answering a lot of emails, pushing a lot of paper, like doing all this stuff. And yet when we get to the end of the day, if we're honest with ourselves and we look back on everything that we accomplished with that day, we will realize, in fact, that we were nothing more than busy, just being busy. And distraction is a dangerously deceptive saboteur of our goals. Distraction is what most of us will lose to. Not because of a changing economy, not because we don't have the skills to be successful, right? It has nothing to do with our products. I mean, the daily wellness pack, the starter kit, the sample kit, like all of these gift sets that you have are incredible. They're extraordinary. Everybody loves them, right? All herbal health food and herbal skincare and herbal beverage, like these are things that the world wants. It's not because of our products. It's not because of our business models. It's because we get distracted. It's because we spend too much time on product training because it's safe and it's easy and not enough time selling and prospecting and talking to new people, right? We know what we should do, but we allow ourselves to get distracted. Now, there is a third type of procrastination that I do want to introduce you to. And this one is kind of surprising because this one affects the chronic overachievers. And we call this priority dilution. And priority dilution is fascinating because it can be both. It can be conscious or it can be unconscious, but it is allowing our attention to shift. And what's interesting about this one is this one has nothing to do with being lazy or apathetic or disengaged. Yet it is the same net result that at the end of the day, the world's most successful people, but this one affects the do-gooders, the leaders, the checklisters, the taskmasters, all of the chronic overachievers, and the very people who you wouldn't think to be procrastinators, but it affects us. This is the chronic overachievers procrastination, right? Like these are those of you that are the icons. This affects you because even though as your star rises, and it has nothing to do with being lazy or apathetic or disengaged, right? But it's the same net result that at the end of the day, our most significant priorities are left incomplete, not because we're lazy, but because we have allowed our attention to shift to less important, but perhaps more urgent tasks, right? And so, as you start out as an ace and then you become, like you move through the ace ranks and into the hero ranks and into the icon ranks, as your star rises and your business grows, you become more and more susceptible to priority dilution. So early on, we struggle with procrastination and creative avoidance, but later on, as we become these high-level leaders, right, and we reach the icon ranks, we start to struggle with priority dilution because there's more and more people in our responsibility purview, more and more people that we're trying to make successful, and we have to figure out a way to grow our organization and create exponential results with limited time, right? And that is a real struggle. And I'll tell you this now, right up front. My first book, Take the Stairs, addressed the first two types of procrastination. It was really all about procrastination and creative avoidance. It was really all about these two. Now, what we have found over time is that the highest level leaders also struggle with priority dilution. So what we're going to do today is we're going to tackle these first two, these fundamental ones that everyone struggles with. Now, my second book talks about priority dilution. And my second book was called Procrastinate on Purpose, The 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. I would love for you to, you can always check out that book, but here's what I want to do. Since we don't have time to go all through it today, I put together a free 90-minute training for you. And if you go to roryvaden.com/multiply, just go to that URL, roryvaden.com/multiply, you can actually watch a free training on the 5 permissions to multiply your time. So those of you that struggle with priority dilution and you're like high-level leaders, go there and you can sign up for that free training. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, the one word that solves all three of them. And I really believe that success can be boiled down to just one word. And I'm going to tell you what the word is, but I want to warn you right up front that you might not like it. Because while it is simple, it's not at all easy. And even though it is the truth about success in this business, Sunrider, and it's the truth about success in any life, it's not really popular. And I feel pretty confident saying that none of you want to hear this because I don't like to hear it. But even though we don't like to hear it, it is the truth. And after an entire career of studying this and working with thousands of clients in our various coaching programs over history, I can tell you that success boils down to one simple word: discipline. Discipline. That's it. The most successful people in the world simply have the discipline to do the things they know they should be doing, even when they don't feel like doing them. They have the discipline to take the stairs when everyone else is taking the escalator. Now, in my Take the Stairs book, we came up with 7. What happened is we profiled all of these high performers, these ultra performers, these people that we call multipliers. And we found 7 key distinctions about how they think that's different from everybody else. And those 7 key distinctions allow them to be disciplined when most people would not be. Now, in the time we've got today, I'm not going to be able to go through all 7 distinctions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a couple of them. I'm going to cover 2 of them. But before we dive into that, I want to make sure I don't skip over the message, because my whole goal here today, my whole invitation, if you don't remember anything else, I just want you to remember this, is that success comes down to, and I just want to encourage you, and I want to invite you, and I want to challenge you to simply start doing the things you don't want to do. That's it. Do the things you don't want to do. That is what will change your life. That is what will change your business. And it is creating this take the stairs mindset in your downline with your organization and in every area of your own life. I promise you, this is the truth of success. It's just not sexy. And so people don't talk about it. But when we study this, we look at it, it is universal. It is the absolute shortest, most guaranteed path to greatness. This is what it takes. And look, for me, where I learned the most about discipline was from somewhat of an unexpected place. It wasn't from getting my MBA. It wasn't from all the academic research that we've done. It wasn't from putting together 2 books. And honestly, it wasn't from my mom. It was from my college summer job. So when I was in college, I got recruited to work in this crazy summer program. And I actually ended up doing this for 5 summers. And what would happen is every summer after finals was over, we would go through this company that I did an internship with. They would send us, it wasn't an internship, it was a paid opportunity. But what would happen is they would send us to a state that we had never been before. Once we got there, we would have to knock on doors to find a place to live. We would have to convince strangers to let us live in their house for 3 months. Once we found a place to live, then every single morning thereafter, we would wake up at 5:59 a.m., we would take ice cold showers, and then we would go out and we would knock on doors 14 hours a day, 6 days a week on straight commission, paying all of our own expenses, selling these educational resources door to door. Door to door. Now, that is a fancy way of saying I grew up to become a door-to-door salesperson. That is like the most hated of all professions. Now, in my defense, I never wanted to grow up to become a door-to-door salesperson. I was a perfectly normal child. I wanted to sell Mary Kay. But I did this for 5 years, and it was a direct sales organization. And you know what happened? Over 5 years, 5 summers while I was in college and graduate school, I made over $250,000 in those 5 summers. And a huge part of the money that I meant was from sponsoring other students. And by the time I was a senior in college, I had over 60 people in my direct downline and organization. And it was enough that I was making near 6-figure income just from going door to door and teaching people to do it. And this is the truth of success. And it has been true in every part of my personal life, every team that I've ever led, both of our successful companies, one that we sold a few years ago, and every single organization that we have studied. It is all about discipline and doing the things you don't feel like doing. And we have to learn this at a young age, right? This is my son, Jasper. And Jasper is a master negotiator. And we still at times we're having to teach Jasper right now that there's going to be times in life where he has to do things that he doesn't want to do. Like, for example, for Halloween, he wanted to dress up as, a fireman or something. And we wanted him to dress up as a panda bear. And he didn't want to dress up as a panda bear. And we said, look, Jasper, sometimes you're just going to have to do the things that you don't feel like doing. And so we just had to make him do that, right? So let's talk now about how do you get yourself to do the things, and how do you get others, people in your downline, in your organization, people that you're sponsoring, how do you get them to do things that you don't feel like doing? Well, the first of the 7 principles from the Take the Stairs book is what we call the paradox principle of sacrifice. The paradox principle of sacrifice. Now, in Colorado, where I grew up, we are world famous for the Rocky Mountains. And to the western part of the state, we have the Great Rocky Mountains. And what a lot of people don't realize about Colorado is that Colorado as a state is divided almost exactly in half. And to the eastern part of the state are the Great Kansas Plains. Well, because of that unique topographical landscape, Colorado is one of the only places in the world that has both buffalo and cows. And there's a fantastic lesson for leaders to learn from studying the way that these 2 creatures respond to storms. Whenever storms come, storms always kind of brew from the west. And what happens is they roll out towards the east. And what cows do is very natural. A cow can sense that a storm is coming from this direction. And so a cow will try to run east to get away from the storm. Now, the only problem with that is that if you know anything about cows, you know they're not real fast. And so as a cow tries to run east away from the storm catches up with them rather quickly. And so instead of outrunning the storm, the cows actually run with the storm, maximizing the amount of pain and time and frustration they experience from that storm. Isn't that stupid? That is so crazy. But here's the thing. Humans do the exact same thing all the time. We spend so much of our lives constantly trying to avoid the inevitable challenges that come along from the difficult circumstances that our very own choices have led us to be in. I can speak from personal experience here. People who are in debt constantly try to find ways around paying their bills. There was a time several years ago where I was 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. And people who are unhealthy are often making rationalizations for why it doesn't matter, or how I've already tried everything, or why nothing works, or I don't have time. People who are struggling in their marriage are often avoiding the difficult but meaningful conversations that need to be had if there is any hope or chance of reconciling that relationship. And the same is true for anybody in direct sales. We know that we need to talk more people. We find a way not to do it. We know that we need to sponsor people. We know that we need to have difficult conversations. We know that we need to develop leaders. We know we have to develop systems and processes. And there's all of these things that we know we should be doing. And yet we find a way to put off doing them because they're scary, or we don't want to deal with rejection, or they're hard, or they're uncomfortable. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that you're normal. The human brain is designed to keep you safe. And that means the human brain is naturally going to lead you away from things that are uncomfortable, things that are, challenging. But the human brain, you need to understand, is hardwired for safety. The human brain is not hardwired for success. If you want to hardwire your brain for success, and if you want to be more successful and you want your team to be more successful, then you have to change the way that you think. And here's the big insight that the ultra performers have had and the multipliers have had that we've studied that not everyone else has had, that isn't so obvious. Ultra performers know problems that are procrastinated on are only amplified. Problems that are procrastinated on are only amplified. Waiting always makes it worse, right? And this is something that not everybody realizes, and we don't always notice right away, but it is true that procrastination and indulgence are really nothing more than creditors that charge you interest. And until you train your brain to think about that, you're never going to be able to reach your potential. Now, here's what's interesting about buffalo. There's a big difference between buffalo and cows. What buffalo do is buffalo wait for that storm to cross right over the crest of the peak of that mountaintop. And as the storm rolls over the ridge, buffalo turn, and instead of running east away from the storm, buffalo turn and they charge directly at the storm. Buffalo run at the storm, and by running at the storm, they run straight through it, which actually minimizes the amount of pain and time and frustration they experience from that storm. Notice how it's the exact same storm. It's such a great metaphor for all of us, right? Because all of us are dealing with the same types of storms, right? Like all of us have to, learn how to ask for the sale or ask for someone to join the business. All of us are having to deal with new technology, right? Like all of us are having to deal with changes from social media and the gig economy and an aging business model, right? All of us have to deal with that. We don't always get a choice about whether or not we have storms. The only choice that we have is how we respond to those storms. And more specifically here, when we respond to those storms. And this buffalo mentality is very representative of the take the stairs mindset of an ultra performer or a multiplier. It's this idea that we would actually charge the storm. And this leads me to the paradox principle of sacrifice, which simply stated is this: easy short-term choices lead to difficult long-term consequences. Meanwhile, difficult short-term choices lead to easy long-term consequences. The great paradox here is what seems easy in life, eating whatever we want, buying it on credit, saying whatever we feel like without thinking about it, resting when we should be working out, like whatever. Like the things that seem easy in life are the very vehicles to the more difficult life. And all of the things that seem hard, like working hard when we don't feel like it, investing into our own personal development, spending time developing leaders, getting outside of our comfort zone, working out, saving money, all of these things that seem like sacrifices, they're not actually sacrifices at all. They're just short-term down payments on these rich future blessings. They are the vehicles to the easier life. But the human brain is not programmed to think that way. You have to teach it to think that way, which is why people read Take the Stairs over and over and over and over, and they give it to their teams. So they read them over and over and over because you have to train your brain to think this way. It's a different way of thinking. And part of the realization here, right, is you got to come to the place where you just accept the idea and you know that we always pay a price. We always pay a price. We either pay the price now, today, or we will pay it later with interest. Procrastination and indulgence are really nothing more than creditors that charge you interest, right? There is no way to avoid the pain, to avoid the challenge. Like, life is going to be hard one way or another. It's either going to be hard because we're not doing the things we're supposed to do, and that makes life hard forever, or it's going to be hard for a little while we make some sacrifices, we break from our comfort zone, we step in and we learn some new skills, and we do some things, and we talk to some new people, and we build, and then it'll be hard for a couple years maybe, or a little while, and then after that, it gets easier and easier and easier. The choice is yours. Are you going to be the cow, or are you going to be the buffalo? Are you going to take the stairs, or are you going to take the escalator? And that brings us to the first of the 7 take the stairs strategies, and that is this. So how do you put this into practice? It's simple. You learn to leverage long-term vision to endure short-term sacrifice. Leverage long-term vision to endure short-term sacrifice. The amount of our endurance is directly proportionate to the clarity of our vision. When we have a crystal clear picture of what we want in our life, okay? So if we see the vision for the future, and we can see it, and we have it clear, and it's documented, and we know this is where I'm going, this is what I want to achieve, then there is a naturally strong connection to the sacrifices we're asking ourselves and others to make today. That creates a context for action to take place, and our discipline engages automatically as a byproduct of our vision. However, if we don't have a clear vision, or we don't spend much time thinking about it, or we don't have it written down, then there is at best a convoluted connection to the sacrifices we're asking ourselves and others to make towards the future. So there is no context for action, and there is no reason for our discipline to engage. And so it becomes virtually impossible to motivate ourselves or somebody else. It's not so much that people struggle from a lack of discipline as they do from a lack of vision. We all have discipline. Discipline is innate. It is a part of our human psychology, the neuroscience of our brain. We can endure incredible difficulty, right? Like, there's incredible human willpower, and all these stories of people climbing Mount Everest and surviving wars and crazy, crazy things. It's just that discipline becomes dormant in the absence of vision. Discipline becomes dormant in the absence of vision. So you got to take a minute and write your vision down, right? Take a few minutes and figure out and just dream and say, what do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And write it out in detail. Where do I want to live? What kind of car do I want to have? How big is my organization? How much money am I making? What does my schedule look like every day? What am I doing every day? What are the activities that I'm involved with? And like, what does my impact and my legacy look like? And that is what you need to do. The sooner you get clear on a person's vision, the sooner you'll see an increase in their performance. The sooner you get clear on a person's purpose, the sooner you'll see an increase in the person's performance. Leverage long-term vision to endure short-term sacrifice. That is the strategy of the first of 7 take the stairs principles. Okay. The second principle is what we call the buy-in principle of commitment. Okay. This is the second principle, the buy-in principle of commitment. 2 gentlemen were standing in a public restroom. There is a guy named Bob who is standing in front of a urinal. Okay, so Bob walks into this restroom. He's standing in front of a urinal, and Bob has gotten himself into a little bit of a predicament. You see, somehow Bob has managed to drop a $5 bill into the urinal. Now, right about that time, another guy named Dave walks into the restroom. So Dave walks into the restroom. He sees the $5 laying there. He sees Bob contemplating the whole situation, and Dave just kind of gives him one of these. He goes, "Oh man, that's a tough one. What are you going to do here?" And Bob is standing there, and he's looking at the $5. He turns back, he looks at Dave, and then out of nowhere, Bob takes out his wallet, he grabs a $50 bill, and he throws the $50 into the urinal. And Dave freaks out. He's like, "Whoa, man, what are you doing? I can't believe you just did that. That's $50. Are you crazy? Are you outside of your mind? Like, what are you thinking?" And Bob just kind of turns around slowly, and he smiles, and he goes, "Well, you don't think I'd stick my hand in there for just $5, do you?" Yes, that is a great illustration of the buy-in principle, right? Like, you wouldn't stick your hand in there for $5, but you would for $50. We've come to call this the buy-in principle of commitment. And it simply says this: the more we have invested into something, the less likely we are to let it fail. The more we have invested into something, the less likely we are to let it fail. So what this means is that when things get difficult, when things get hard, when things get challenging, that's not when you should question and say, gosh, you know what, maybe this isn't working out. That's what most people do. That's the escalator mindset, is go, you know what, this is kind of hard. I'm not sure I like this. I'm not sure it's working. I'm not sure I'm good at it. But what the take the stairs mindset is that you invest more and you say, I'm going to put in more time, more money. I'm going to educate myself more. I'm going to make more attempts, more reaches, right? I'm going to do more meetups. I'm going to talk to more people. I'm going to invest more, because the more I have invested into it, the less likely I am to let it fail. And that is how ultra performers are created. So visually, it looks like this. All right, I'm going to show you a framework that we call the buy-in principle of commitment, so the commitment continuum. So this is a part of the buy-in principle of commitment. And here's how it works, right? So this is meant to be a visual depiction that codifies the thought process that multipliers or ultra performers go through whenever they're evaluating a decision. And what happens is, whenever we're evaluating a decision, there's two types of energy that are expended in our decision making. The first type of energy is what we call emotional energy. There's the physical energy, which is the one that we all think of. Okay, think about it this way, right? Like when it comes time to go to work out or something, right? And let's just say this, okay? Hypothetically, let's say at some point in your life you made a resolution to lose a little weight. Okay, hypothetically. And my mom always says, she says, Rory, don't you look at anybody when you're saying that, because they'll think you're looking at them. All right. I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at anyone. I'm just saying. Okay. Well, the thought process for most of us in our head when it comes time to go to the gym sounds something like this. See if this sounds familiar to you. We sit there and we say, do I feel like working out right now? And Sunrider, what is the answer to that question? My friend, what is the answer to that question? Do I feel like working out right now? No, the answer is no. I do not feel like working out right now, or ever, as a matter of fact. And for most of us, that is the end of the decision. That's the end of the conversation. Well, what we realize from the ultra performers is that there's another type of energy being expended there, which is not just the physical energy of, do I feel like doing it and do I have the energy to do it? It's emotional energy. You see, emotional energy is expended in simply making decisions. In fact, very often, the emotional energy of making a decision is even much greater than the physical energy required to execute that decision. I mean, think about it this way, right? It's not getting ourselves on the treadmill once we're at the gym that's the hard part. It's when we're sitting on the couch deciding whether or not we should even go, right? It's not actually talking to a friend or a stranger about a business opportunity or to make a sales call. It's not the conversation that's hard. It's the thought of having the conversation that's hard. Most of us lose to the thought of what might happen way before we ever lose to the reality of what actually happens. And this is the ultra performer mindset. I mean, this is the second. This is the second of the 7 big insights that ultra performers have. Okay, so here's how this plays out. Now, if you look at this, ultimately we come up to what we call the decisional threshold. And the decisional threshold is where we're forced to make a choice. We can either go forward with doing what we said we were going to do, or we can turn back towards the way that we've always done things. Now, for most of us, the attitude that we have isn't negative. It's more of a neutral attitude. And we say, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure this is a good idea. I'm not sure I like this. I'm not sure it's going to work out. I'm not sure. And notice it's not really bad. It's just neutral. But here's the thing that you got to realize. Neutral always eventually becomes negative. Neutral is negative. Neutral is not good enough. Now, the habit or the mindset of the ultra performer is only 1 degree different. And their attitude sounds something like this. We say to ourselves, well, I'm in for good. This may not work out, but I'm in for good. I might not be successful, but I'm committed to it. I'm going to do every single thing in my power to make this goal a reality. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to control my behaviors and my actions. Even if the results don't work out, I don't care. I'm going to put my self-esteem into the work ethic and the things I can control. And right there is where their life splits and moves in one of these 2 distinct directions based upon the momentum of their subconscious mind. Now, the person who says, I'm not sure yet, gets plagued with this question. And the question is, should I? Should I stay or should I go? Should I do this now or should I do this later? Should I do it myself or should I give it to someone else? Their whole life becomes about this question, should. Should. And you have to be careful with this, friends, because if you're not careful, you end up becoming what I like to call a shouldhead. Don't be a shithead, right? Like, that's my big advice. Beware of the question should, because should is always going to pull you back towards the negative. But notice the ultra performer. The person who says I'm in for good has an altogether different question that rolls in their mind. And their question is not should I? Their question is how will I? How will I hit that target? How will I meet that deadline? How will I reach that goal? How will I grow my organization? How will I develop more leaders? How can I create exponential results in limited time? How will I get out of debt? How will I save this marriage? How will I turn this around? How? And the moment you start asking the question, how, it's as if our minds transcend all limitations. We break free of these belief barriers and these mental prisons of our own construction about what is possible and what isn't possible for our life. And that changes everything, because all of a sudden, once we ask the question how, our creativity engages and it pushes us over the decisional threshold. And we call that moment the pivot point. The pivot point is the moment the person's thinking shifts from should I or can I or is this possible to how can I or how can we or how could this be possible? And that moment changes everything. It is the second, and that brings us to the second of the 7 take the stairs strategies, and that is this. You increase your commitment and thereby the likelihood of your success by intentionally creating the question how, so that you don't accidentally relent to the question should. You intentionally create the question how, so that you don't accidentally relent to the question should. And that is so important. What I've noticed for myself is that if I'm not consciously choosing a good attitude, then I am unconsciously choosing a negative one, or at least a neutral one. And neutral isn't good enough because neutral is negative. So you have to consciously choose to take the stairs. You have to consciously choose to be willing to do the things that you know you should do, even if you don't feel like doing them, even if no one else is doing them. That's what success takes. That's what being an ultra performer is. That's what being a multiplier is all about. Now, I told you our time would go by very fast. Hopefully you feel that way. It has gone so fast for me. So I have one other thing I want to share with you, but before I do that, I want to give you 3 resources, okay, that you can work on, okay? So there's a couple exercises. So I already told you one. I want you to write out what you want your life to look like in 5 years in paragraph form. The second thing I want you to do is I just want you to ask your question. Once you write that vision out, underneath it, I just want you to write out how. How could it be possible? Don't judge it and say, could it be possible? Just write out what would have to happen for it to become realistic, and just write that out. Okay, so those are your 2 exercises. And I also want to give you 3 resources to take this conversation further. And this is for you and your teams. Okay, now 2 of these resources are totally free. Got it? I'm going to give you 3 resources. 2 of them are free. So there's no reason you shouldn't do these. Okay, now let me give you the first one. The first one I actually already shared with you earlier, and that is we put together a free video training for you on how to multiply time. This is based on my second book, Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Time. This will give you an introduction to that training, and it's for you and your team. And all you need to do is go to roryvaden.com/multiply. If you go there, you can get access to that training, and you will start to learn how to overcome priority dilution. It's free, so go right now and do that, roryvaden.com/multiply. The second thing I want to do is I want to invite you to request a free brand strategy call with our team at Brand Builders Group. Now, Brand Builders Group, here's the URL. It's freebrandcall.com/RV. So if you go to freebrandcall.com/RV. Brand Builders Group, we are in the business of helping people build and monetize their personal brand. Specifically, we help people grow their online influence. So we help people manage their social media and build their social media and build funnels and do online trainings and create webinars and drive leads through paid advertising and paid traffic strategies and free traffic strategies. And we help you tactically build your business online to drive them to the business that you already have. Okay. And if you want to talk to us about that, we do live events, we have virtual trainings, we do one-on-one coaching. There's so many things we do, but we will do a free 1-hour training as well to show you how do we build and monetize an online brand. And if you do that, if you go to freebrandcall.com/RV, you can request a call. Now, the third resource I just want to point you to, which should be no surprise, is my books. So I've got 2 books right now. One is Take the Stairs, and one is called Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Time. And if you go buy either or both of these books, okay, so you can buy them from anywhere. If you buy either or both of these books, I just want you to email your receipt to bonus@roryvaden.com and put your first name in the subject line. So email your receipt to bonus at roryvaden.com and put your first name in the subject line. Now, if someone gifted you one, then you have to go buy the other one, but you only have to buy, one to get the bonuses for both books. And if you do that, we're going to send you $200 in bonuses. So you can buy the book from wherever, but email your receipt into us, and then we will send you a little ebook of quotes. We will also give you a recording, a place where you can access a recording, a version of this training. And then you also will get access to several other resources that we've got available, and you can check that out. So if you're interested, you can do that. All right. Now, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is what we call the rent axiom. And this is one of my favorite things, and it's one of the most important principles that you can learn. And usually when I do a live training with people, they'll, follow me on social media, and you can ask me questions, by the way, on social media. My Instagram handle is at Rory Vaden. So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook, or, you can just leave me questions. But a lot of times the first question that somebody asks me, it always makes me laugh and smile, because it's the same question that I think I would have if I were in your seat hearing this for the first time. And so what happens is people will come up to me and they'll say, okay, Rory, so let's say I start doing all the stuff you're talking about. Like, let's say I start taking the stairs, and I start being disciplined, and I start overcoming procrastination, and I'm watching out for creative avoidance, and I'm being mindful of priority dilution, and I'm making sacrifices, and I'm leveraging the long-term vision, and I'm being committed, and I'm asking the question how, and I'm taking the stairs, and I'm being disciplined. How long do I have to do all that for? And that is the question that I would have asked too. And I'm going to give you the answer, probably not that you want to hear, but it's the answer that you need to hear. And it's the answer that I need to hear, because it's the truth. The answer is that you never get to stop being disciplined. You never do. Now, that doesn't mean life is going to be one great big giant trip to the gym, or that you're only going to eat foliage. All right. But the reason that we never get to stop being disciplined is because of something that we call the rent axiom. And the rent axiom says that no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, no matter how long you've been in this business, success is never owned. Success is only rented. And the rent is due every day. Success is never owned. Success is rented, and the rent is due every day. And it doesn't matter if today is your first day in the business, or if you're just barely an IBO, or if you're a star elite, or you're an icon royal, or it doesn't matter. And success is never owned. Success is only rented, and the rent is due every day. And you could take out that word success, and you could put in for it anything that matters to you. Financial security is never owned. It is only rented, and the rent is due every day. Being in great physical health is never owned. It is rented, and the rent is due every day. Being a great parent is never owned. It is rented, and the rent is due every day. A happy marriage is never owned. It is rented, and the rent is due every single day. And I know that sometimes this can strike you as bad news. Like, oh man, I was hoping there was some invisible finish line. But that's a myth. That's fake. That's false. That's the escalator mindset. That's not true. That's not what will change your life. This will change your life, is the idea that success is something that I'm proud of, and I'm gonna commit to, and I'm gonna make good decisions each and every single day. Because I know that if I make good decisions, small decisions every single day, that it'll add up. And that is the truth of success. That success is not about the huge, grandiose decisions. It's about the small, seemingly insignificant, nearly invisible, little tiny choices that we make each and every day. So, my friend, the next time you are in front of a set of escalators and the stairs, take the stairs. Thank you very, very much.